Amen. So, try and picture this scenario here. Try and picture, okay, there's these two women have come from this really kind of, we'll say, shady background. Maybe their story when they're coming in here is like one that you maybe would question both of them as they're coming in and they're making this case about what's happening in life. And so that's kind of that's who these women are. And here's really the story on it. Is these two women had kids within days of each other. They lived together, they lived in this house, and within days of each other they had kids. And something horrible really happened. Something just unfathomable really happened in this night. One of them, the babies were sleeping with them, and as one of them was sleeping, she rolls over and suffocates her baby. It's a horrible story. Something that you can't even imagine really happened. I can't imagine how they must have felt through this time. So that's there. And so this other woman, the woman that did this, probably two different things where you think of, well, just in her desperation and just hope and just didn't know what to do. This is something she couldn't imagine. Or maybe just she had, had a history of doing, evil things in the past. But what she did is she went over to the woman whose baby was alive, the lady was asleep, and she switched the babies out. And so when this woman woke up, the woman who had the actual living baby, when she woke up and she saw this dead baby in her arms, obviously she's devastated, and she's just probably crying out and all this stuff. But she realized after a few moments, maybe, this isn't my baby. This isn't my kid. Like, moms, I know like, maybe as dads, maybe we would have been fooled or whatever, but moms, that this is my baby. This is, I know this. And so they're bringing their case before, really you could say like before a judge, and they're bringing this to him. And they're stating this. And so like I said, their history, okay, they've got kind of a shady past, and what do we need to do on this? And so they're coming at him, and they're stating their cases here, and they're like, this is my baby. And so this is the time before DNA tests, this is the time before birth certificates, this is the time before social media where you can just pull out your phone and be like, look, here, this is the picture, this is the day it happened. Like, I didn't want them in there, but look now, this is a good thing. There's a picture of this. When I'm holding my baby, you can like scroll in on the baby like really close and like show, like, look, there's the birthmarks. There's his face. You can see that this is my baby. You can see like the color of the hair, whatever. This is my kid. You can obviously see that that's mine. But they didn't have that then, so they're coming before this person, they're stating the case, and they're like, what do we need to do? And just kind of seeing the wisdom of this person. Now, again, I've done this before, but I don't have a sword. But he said, bring me a sword. Yeah, that's trying to keep it safe. Try to keep it safe. Make sure you're awake out there. He said, bring me a sword. Bring me the kid. We'll cut the kid in half. There's two of you, and then you can have that. This is what he said there. And obviously the mom, this is her kid, even though like the other one has it, she's like, no, don't do that. I mean, she wants the baby alive. No, do not, just let her have it. So he'll stay alive. She can have the baby. The other mom was like, no, we'll kill the baby. Nobody needs to have this baby. And that's what was happening. And so obviously at this time, this person knew, okay, he's the real mom. And it was like, okay, I wasn't going to cut this baby in half. The one who was going to give the baby away, that's the mom. This person's not the mom. And think about this like a wisdom decision that was made. That, by the way, if you don't know, that's a biblical story, like an actual account. That was Solomon. In case if you didn't follow it, if you haven't read the story in there. That is King Solomon. Right before, if you know about him, he's known for really, you think of two things, and it's just wisdom and money. And maybe later on, like all his wives and stuff got him into trouble there. But that's what he was known for, is wisdom and his money and all the stuff that he had. But he had this vision from God. And God said, okay, well, what do you want? What do you want to ask from me? And he asked for him. He said, I need wisdom. I need discernment, because I want to judge our people. I want to be able to judge them rightly and justly in the way that you would want me to. So he asked for that. And God said, because you didn't ask for all these riches. And I thought about us, like, you always see in movies when people ask, when they have like 3 wishes, what's the first one? People are always like, I want this money or this. And I'm always thinking, why don't they say unlimited wishes? Like you could just go on. Because you didn't ask for all these types of things, because you didn't ask for all this money and fame and all this power and stuff, because you asked for the right thing. I'm going to give you this. And so this was in this chapter. You see, he was asking for this, and he asked for wisdom from God. You could see this back there right before, and so that was the next story. You see these women coming to him, and he made this wise decision. But he asked her, he said, I need some wisdom. I'm following in the footsteps of my father, King David, who was a really wise man. He was known as a man after God's own heart. You know, he had his flaws, he messed up, but he was a wise king. He did all these things. And so I'm following in his footsteps. And so it was pretty tough for him. And he wanted to rightly rule his people. And so he asked for this from God. God gave it to him. And he also said, because you didn't ask for all these things, because you didn't ask to have all this power and win the $1 billion lottery or whatever. I don't know if anybody's won that yet. I would think nobody here's probably won it. You won it? Oh, they said I won it. One person did. Sermon's over. No. Because he didn't ask for all that, he ended up giving him, he gave him wisdom, he gave him money, he gave him honor, and he was just unlike no other than what he had. So God just used him in a mighty, huge way. If you think about this, and so we're going to be getting into this book of Proverbs, and Proverbs is just, it's a book about all this wisdom, really from God. It's a book. It's almost like, I would think if God had a Twitter feed, it would be something like this. It would be Proverbs. It would be these short kind of sayings that He's given us all this wisdom. In fact, I'll say it this way. I'll put it up on the screen. A proverb is a short, pithy sentence that conveys a moral truth. So that's why I say it's almost like God's Twitter feed. There's people out there. It's not as if everybody's following all kinds of people. I'm not comparing them to God. If you have a Twitter feed, it's not as if you can just tweet out things and it's the same as God. I'm speaking more of like the length of them and how they are. But this is how Proverbs is. It's just all this wisdom is packed, in this book. And I encourage you guys to jump into this book. If you're not reading it, if you haven't gotten into any type of reading plan, I hope you guys do. I'm always pushing you guys to get into the Bible. You can't get enough just from me reading here for about 30 minutes in a message or whatever. Read on your own. Get into that. And this is a great place to start, is the book of Proverbs. You can do it this month. There's 31 of them, so you can read one a day in most months, or half of the months. You can do that. And now you're doing the days of the months, and song in your mind or whatever. But no, you can do that. Get started in it and read these things, because there's a ton of wisdom in here. And who of us doesn't need more wisdom from God? And I'm going to stop really kind of talking and building up the book of Proverbs. Let's just jump into it. Proverbs chapter 1. I'm going to go from the very beginning here, and we'll look at some things here, just starting off. Proverbs 1 through 6, I'm going to read right here. It says, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, regarding wisdom and instruction. Just look at the things he says, or what's in here. It's just packed with so much. For understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. And I'll read the next verse in a minute, but I just want to stop there on this. There's so much in there. Like I said, what he's talking about. This is generally, most of them, not all of Proverbs is written by Solomon, but generally most of them are attributed to him. Just his wisdom. We got this from God. And so there's just so much in there. He talks about wisdom, he talks about instruction, insight, prudence to the simple, right and wrong. Add to your learning guidance. Just so many different things in there. I want to make a little bit of a distinction here. I'll put these up on the screen. You've probably heard this in some way, but I want to say it from the beginning is knowledge is knowing facts, and wisdom is knowing what to do with those facts. There's a difference in there. Knowledge is knowing facts, but wisdom is knowing what to do with those facts. Y'all know those people, and if you don't, maybe you're that person who just has all this useless knowledge. They just have all these things. Another person that you want to have on your team in Trivial Pursuit, right? Like if you're going to play Trivial Pursuit, you're like, this is the person for me. Or if you somehow get on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or like you're in New York and you just get into the right cab, cash cab. This is the person you want to be able to call like as a lifeline. Like they have all this useless knowledge. I told them that it's pointless to have all this, but now there's a point to it. Those people that have all those useless facts. When I was growing up, I watched a ton of TV. Now, I went out, I rode my bike, I played sports like from morning until night, so that's like my parental thing, like saying, kids, get out into nature, you need to do that. But I did watch a lot of TV. And so I watched so much that maybe, I used to think of it as a gift. It's not really a gift to be able to really from the past, probably like 80s and 90s. I can quote all these movies, some of them almost like verbatim, like all these scenes, and I would, these situations, these conversations I'd be in, I'd go back to these movies. It was kind of dumb. I watched too much. But I learned that knowing all that stuff about shows and be able to quote all those things didn't really do much for me. It didn't really like advance me in life. I never like went to McDonald's and just started quoting Goonies or something. Goonies. I just started quoting Goonies, and they're like, the cashier's just like, well done, Kyle. Anything you want on the house. Whatever. I'm like, truffle shuffle right at the end. None of that. That never happened. It was like it was pointless to really have someone say that. I know too. I think me and Michael talked about this in sports. There's just like some people just have all these stats in their mind from watching sports, or just the ESPN analysts on TV. They have all these stats, and it's just like, what is the point of this? Especially in baseball, if you watch that, they have all these stats, all these situational stats. And I'm like, why does anybody need to know this? They're like, so-and-so, this batter this is his stats for this particular pitcher, and this is his different stats for this particular pitcher at this different stage of the game, in the beginning or the end. And it's at home field or visitor field, those situational stats. And then it's like at night or in the daytime, and then it's like regular season, postseason, all these things, like in the 20s, in the 40s. It's just crazy. You guys know, like some of those stats, I'm like, I just hear them talking. I'm like, I think they just need to get paid to talk, so they're just throwing these things out there. And it's just like, what is the point of this? I guess maybe for them there is a point because they're getting paid to give you talk. But it's like, sometimes there's just these facts that we have, and it's like, there's really no kind of wisdom behind all that. But what is the point of that? Now wisdom is really knowing what to do with those facts. It's like having some of those. Maybe some of those facts are still just pointless altogether. But wisdom is knowing what to do with facts that we have, with knowledge that we've been given. I think there's a point to that. Solomon also, later on, I was reading up on the book of Proverbs, and some kind of speculated that Solomon wrote Proverbs, most of the Proverbs, with his kids in mind, like with his sons. His sons ended up taking over. Rehoboam took over, and it wasn't very long. His kingdom didn't last long at all, not compared to his dad and his granddad. But Rehoboam comes in here. If you know the story of him, this is I believe in 1 Kings chapter 12, with Rehoboam, when he takes over the kingdom. If you know the story of that, he goes in there, and Jeroboam from Israel comes to him, and he's like, okay, look, your dad taxed us so much. He just taxed the crap out of us. That's the way I was going to say it. That's why he was coming to him. It was just like, so much taxes. If you'll just lay back on some of these taxes, we'll do a lot better here. The people are going to, they're going to follow you more if you'll just ease up on these taxes. Now you think about the temple and all these things. They had to have taxes because they were paying for some of these things. And so he's coming to him saying, if you can ease up on the taxes, it's going to go well. So Jeroboam's saying this to Rehoboam. Rehoboam didn't really like this. So he goes back and he asks his dad's advisors, all the elders. He goes to the people that have been with his dad. They've been around longer. Just the name says that the elders, he goes to them and says, what do you guys think? He's telling me we need to ease up on some of these taxes. And they're like, it'd be a good idea. They're giving him some wise advice, and they say it would be a good idea if you could ease up on some of these taxes because the people are going to follow you if you do this. This is a good thing. You probably should do this. You should ease up on this. He doesn't like this, though. Remember, he's young. He's coming in there. He's like, I don't like this decision. So he goes to his friends, his younger friends, who he ran around with, and he goes to them. And I think he probably, hinted at what he wanted them to say. I got to think that. And he went to them. He's like, hey, they said I should ease up on them. They said I should actually do what they're saying. What do you guys think? And they're like, no, that's crazy. And they went on and said all kinds of stuff like, tell them like these crazy things like my pinky's way bigger than my dad's, waist and all this. They just kind of threw out some odd comments of like, no, you're stronger than, go to them and say, my pinky's stronger than anybody ever. I'm going to tax you guys even more. And they just went on and they just gave him horrible advice. And he listened to them. He liked it. And it didn't go well. So you think about this. And I heard people say like, Solomon was writing this maybe to his kids. He wanted them to get some wisdom there. Terrible advice in there. No wisdom. And so you see some of this and you see the results of it. Now, I want to go now to verse 7. That same chapter, Proverbs 1:7. This is the verse I really want to talk about. The fear of the Lord, maybe you've seen this. You've probably seen this like up on things, just decorations on the wall. But it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. This is just a fundamental thing for us. Like just getting knowledge and learning right here. I heard someone say this, it's like the keynote of the whole book. And I don't know if like music, that's like the keynote. That's musical, I'm pretty sure. But it's like, that's the keynote of the book. It sounded really good. I was like, I think this makes a point. It's no wisdom here on that. It's just the key. You got to know this to get the rest of the book and what it's talking about. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And it's saying here, there's two ways to look at this. You can look at with the fear of respect fear or wet your pants fear. I mean, really, that's like the two different options there. Like this respect fear and this just really scared, type of fear. And which is it? There's all kinds of beliefs on this, speculation. What's he talking about? Which is it? Honestly, I think here in the beginning, I think it is both. I don't know if that's really popular for a lot of people, but I do. I think it's both here. Sometimes I think we take away this, like we soften this idea of fear from God. We soften it down as maybe just a reverence. Now, I read something that someone was talking about this, saying that this wasn't really talking about this strong type of fear. In fact, let me read a verse just to kind of point this out. Matthew 10:28. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. This is Jesus speaking. This is in the New Testament. Don't be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. And like I said, just think about this verse here, talking about this, like softening this. I've seen some go back to this and try to work this around to saying, well, what it's talking about there is fearing Satan. Yeah, it's talking about a real fear, but it's saying, it's talking about fearing Satan. And I just want to crush that idea. It's not talking about Satan. Nowhere are we called to be fearing Satan. Now, I don't want. We should never be fooling around anything satanic and going to him and thinking that we're strong. Satan is more powerful than us. I'm just in ourselves. He's more powerful. We cannot. You cannot be a Christian and be messing around with stuff. I'm telling you, that's just a terrible thing to be doing. So I'm not saying anything about that. But nowhere in the Bible is it saying we should be fearing Satan. That's not what it's talking about. Now, I've seen other people say, they try to soften this and say, okay, it's just speaking of reverence, which, by the way, I do believe we should revere God. We need to have reverence for him. But they try to soften it down to say it's just speaking of reverence. Almost like looking at a verse saying, don't revere those who kill the body, but not the soul, but rather revere or have reverence for the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. And it's talking about killing, death, destroying the body and soul in hell. It's not just talking about just having a revere, like for your parents. Like, I respect you a lot, God. It's having more than that. It's talking about having a very real fear. But I want to include something. I want you to think like that's where we need to stay the whole time with our relationship with God. We don't stay in this fear. I'm not calling for you guys like you've been Christians for a long time or whatever. Say like you should be in this like very scared fear of God all the time. I think our relationship changes in that way. But I do believe in the beginning here that there is this type of fear that we're supposed to be having for God, and it's more than just a simple reverence, like just kind of a respect for somebody. Questions?
I know a comment.
Okay.
I think a very good place to see that fear that's played out in both ways is in Job. Because here he has been already beaten down by all these things, and he covers his mouth. He says, I don't have anything left to say. And there's fear because he's like God. He's already saying, hey, just take my life. I'm already miserable.
Yeah.
So but yet he doesn't speak against God. He knows that God can do as he chooses. And I was thinking of, as you were speaking about the both, and that actual realization has only recently come to me as well. I'm sure you've had it for a lot longer than me, but I'm just, Job is a good place to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot in there. Yeah, and so, I don't think it's somewhere that we should just camp out in all the time as a Christian, like we should just be in this fear. Like the relationship changes. It actually changes. In fact, I'll say it this way. I threw it up on the screen. The tremble type of fear, what I'm talking about there, is this type of fear is meant for those who don't believe. And I want you to get this. What I'm saying is like this is the beginning point. It has to be really the beginning point right there. You know, the last 2 weeks, if you weren't here, we talked a little bit about the law and how, you know, we were under that before Christ, and like, it was really almost like this horrible marriage. Like, the law was just there to tell us we're terrible. The law was to tell us, like, we could not earn our way to salvation. The law was just there to point out our flaws, point out all these terrible things, saying that you and I deserve death and hell. That's what the law did. I mean, the law, just honestly, you look at it, you say, like, the law was a jerk. You know, in the beginning, it's like, it's just, who do you think you are? Like it's almost, you want to talk to the law in that way, like, who do you think you are? When you first come to that, like, how can you say this? How can you tell me that I don't deserve to be in heaven? How can you tell me that I deserve death? How can you tell me that there's no way I could be saved? And that's really where it is. And then it kind of changes. You know, when you come to that point of understanding who God is, the beginning of, you know, this knowledge, it's the fear of the Lord. When you come to that point of fearing Him, you come to that beginning point. This is the beginning place of knowing who He is. That's right where it is. It changes. You know, our thinking kind of changes. We're at this point before, we're back there, and we're like, hey, who do you think you are, law? And it's just like, we're mad at it, you know? I don't know if I think about, you know, girls like taking their earrings off, you know, it's like, we're about to do this, you know, like just mad at the law in that way. But then you come to that place of, but this is God. I've come face to face with the holy God, and you start to see, that's kind of what the point of the law was, that I'm imperfect. I do not deserve this. I understand this. And then I see God coming in and saying, that's right. But it changes. It changes there. And He's like, I want to actually change. I want to bring you into this relationship with me. So that fear part, it kind of changes. The whole relationship there with God really changes in that place. You understand who He is, and then we come to Him and just in love, and it's like, I don't deserve this, but He draws us in, and that's part of it there. I want to jump over to go with this, kind of give some complementary passages here. Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1, verses 18 through 20. I think this is relevant to what we're talking about. Romans 1, 18 through 20. It says, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, you think about creation, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. So this lack of wisdom kind of shows, and you see it really playing out. You can read in this chapter and see what really kind of happens in it, this lack of wisdom. And I believe God gives every one of us, every people, like ample proof of who He is. And we can turn to Him. But what happens, what it says in that chapter, it says we have this truth that's given to us, but we suppress the truth in our wickedness. We don't like that. That's like I said, like our relationship to the law, we're like, don't tell me who I am. Don't tell me that I don't deserve salvation. When I die, I'm going there because I'm good. Well, why? You know, and it's like, we just feel that we're good all of a sudden. And that's really kind of how it is. It's just, He's given us ample proof of Him to turn to Him. But we have this truth, but we want to suppress it down. We want to live the way that we want. We want to do what we want. But He's given us what we call like general revelation. And this is just nature. This is the world. This is. I put some verses in here just to kind of go with this, because I think this is really cool. I don't know if you ever want to look at nature differently and just see nature worshiping God. When you and I have a problem with it, you know, sometimes I'll say something about that in a minute. Psalms 19. I'm just going to read one verse here, but you guys should read the whole chapter of Psalm 19. It's really cool, just talking about this. It says, you'll look at the sky differently when you think about this. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. And that made me think of when some of y'all, when people just put like pictures, you know, on Facebook, and sometimes you just scroll through them and you see like a sky and you're like, oh, it's another sky thing. Yeah, I know God's good. And you scroll through the next thing. And some people just want to go to like gossip, and it's like, no, we need to like say good things. But we scroll through those, right? And you just want to see like, you see the sky and you go past it. But it is. That's what He's talking about there. It's like the skies proclaim the work of His hands. It really is. It's like His artwork. He's just showing it. And nature just worships Him. Here's another one. Now, I would say you can read this whole chapter, but I just pulled out one verse in here. Isaiah 55, verse 12. This really one section of this verse here says, the mountains and hills will burst into songs before you. Just think about this. Think about this picture here. And all the trees of the field will clap their hands. I'm trying to picture of like trees. Isn't that such a cool thing? It's just like, not me doing that. Just like, this is actually me in worship. I'm just, it's happening. But isn't that, what a cool picture. It's just like, nature is going to proclaim God. And it just talks about trees clapping their hands. Well, what a crazy picture, but what an awesome thing. And this is what I was saying a minute ago, was I think it's interesting, not in a good way, but just interesting that you and I, the people, the ones made in God's image, we're the ones who really have the biggest trouble with worshiping God. You know, I mean, we question it. We come here, we're looking at this like, what? I need to worship Him? What's all this about? In nature itself, it just does it. Just being nature. Yeah, he just pulls out those pictures and just those illustrations of trees like clapping, just everything, how it just is beautiful. Now we can go out there and we can look at it and we can choose to see something else. Like I said in Romans chapter 1, we can suppress the truth in our unrighteousness. Like we don't want to see that. But we just think, well, this is just all, man, come on, that's not, there's no God. That's nothing there. We can have those type of thoughts, but it's like, if you see this for what he's saying, he's like, no, I mean, you guys have a choice. You can believe that. But I'm telling you, my creation, it's going to proclaim, my name. It's going to worship me. He talks about rocks crying out, just this nature, and trees clapping. I mean, what a cool picture. Go and read some of those things. And I don't have this up here, but just in Isaiah 55, it says something in there, another popular verse, is God saying, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are my ways your ways. He talked about wisdom. He talked about knowledge from him. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. So you think about those things, and you think about these pictures that he's given us, and he's saying, come to me, come to my wisdom. And yet we're still trying to stay under the law and our own things. We're still trying to live away from him and think that we know what's best and suppress the actual truth from God down. And this is what I see. I'm just going to say these really quickly. I have them up on the screen, but this is what I see from Romans of why we are where we are. We chose to make an exchange. Looking at those verses, you can see that. We chose to make an exchange. We suppressed the truth in our wickedness. We didn't want his wisdom, is basically what it is. And so God handed us over to what we wanted. And this is what he does. He comes to us. He says, I want you to come to me. I want you to live for me. But we chose to live for ourselves. And he said, this is what you want. I'm going to allow you to do this. And so we end up acting out, in reality, what we chose over him. And that's our sin. That's a sin. That's when we have incorrect worship. That's when we suppress God's wisdom that he's trying to give us. We suppress true knowledge. That's when we suppress the truth down. And we say, okay, I know what's best for me. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to live this out. And he doesn't force us to follow him, but he says, my way is the best way. My ways are higher than your ways. I just see him screaming that out to us sometimes. My ways are higher than your ways. Why are you doing this? I want you to come to me. And he wants us to come to that place. But I think a lot of times we just don't want to. We don't want to come to that place of fearing God. I don't want to fear him. I want to live for myself. I don't want to have this authoritarian element. I think is what we really fear. We don't want that. I think God's just screaming out to us, my ways are higher than yours. I want you to come in here. If you want wisdom, I will give that to you. I think God is saying that. And I see this in James chapter 1. James 1:5. This will be my last verse I'll read here. James 1:5. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom. This is what I'll say to you. I'll say to all of us here. If any of us lacks wisdom, if you're wanting us, this is what he says. I've talked about this before. Jesus said, check me out. Have I lied? If the things that I said, if anything's not come true, and that's what I would say. You guys get God has said. It's way bigger than that. He's above our questioning. He wants us to come to him. And this is what he's saying. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. He gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. And it's just a question I can throw to you. You don't have to answer me. You got to answer this yourself. Do you believe that? Do you believe this is God's word? This is what he's saying to us. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God. He gives generously. He's going to give it to us. So if we want wisdom, if we want this discerning ability to be able to know what's right and wrong and to live for him and to be able to live in this world rightly, I got to think that everybody here wants that. We want to know right and wrong. We want to know what's right. We want to live right for God. Ask him. So church, it starts with the fear of God. This is that beginning place. This is what I said. Like it begins right there. We got to have this righteous, actual fear of God, like a real fear of him. We got to He is God. He is the one, you've heard the saying, like, I brought you in this world, I can take you out, and you joke about that with parents. Like, he's the one who can literally say that. He's the one who has control over our destinies. He is the one. He is the only one. We need to have that real type of fear again. It comes to that place. But the relationship changes. I want you to know, like, we shouldn't just live in this, like, really scared fear. It changes when you come to know him. That's what I said, like, he's there, and he's like, you've come to this place. You've come to this place, our God, we come to him in repentance and faith, and turn, and we live for him, and we start to follow him. We follow his commands. I mean, this is what he's saying. Live by my book. Do the things that I'm saying. And he comes there, and he says, yeah, okay, you finally get this. And it's like he draws us in. Draws us in love into this family that says you never have to fear again. And that may seem strange, like to get to a place of never having to fear again, you got to fear God. But that's the beginning place. And then it changes right there. That relationship changes. And it's like, you don't have to fear anymore. You don't have to worry about being alone. You're not in this on your own anymore. You are now in my family. You will be with me forever. And that's how it changes. And I believe when we come to that place of fear of God, it's like the floodgates of grace just really just come down and completely overwhelm us. Just completely overwhelm us. And that's such an amazing thing. And I hope that really like hits you really hard. I know my words are just words. I'm just a guy up here, but I pray for that. Like you can understand that, like the floodgates of like just God's grace, like a real actual grace. It comes down over us. Like we didn't deserve him. We do, like according to his word, we deserve death and hell. Let's just come to a realization of that. We deserve to be away from him because we are not perfect. You are not perfect. None of us are. But he comes in. We come to him in love and trust and faith and repentance. And it's like he brings us in there. And those floodgates of grace just kind of overwhelm us. And it's such an amazing thing. I just want to encourage you guys with that. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know your relationship to God, but I say this all the time. It's like, you don't have to live in regret in the past and say, well, I've got so much that I've done and I've messed up, and how can I get to this place? That's in the past. It's like, what do you need to do now? And it's take that step closer to God. Take that step and start to follow him in grace. You want that wisdom. You want this wisdom we talk about. It begins right there. And just fearing God. Come to him in true understanding of who he is. Fear God. He loves you, but we got to understand who he is. He's not just this friend. He's not just another person. He is the king of the universe. He's the creator of the universe. And we need to come to him in that right place. And then I'm telling you, when we come to him and understand who he really is, it changes everything. That relationship changes. And then it's just like that grace overwhelms us. You guys, go ahead and